You can now get a 30-day trial to experience The Athletic for free. Visit the link in the description below to try it now.
And so I said, you can't have goblins in that situation.
Erik Ten Hag at Ajax is someone that's been discussed a lot recently. Good performances in the Champions League. He's obviously been connected with the Manchester United job at various different times. Unclear whether that's still the case now. But what is clear is that he's a very good football manager, and Ajax are playing extremely well at the moment, JJ. So tell me a little bit about him.
Yes, and if you can't hear any loud hammering of noises, it's building in the area that we are in.
They're trying to stop us.
They're trying to get in. We've locked the doors, can't get in. To talk about Erik Ten Hag. So yeah, linked with Man United, also linked heavily with Man City as a replacement for Pep Guardiola, who is very much influenced by. His Ajax team looks like this. So it's they're 4-3-3, but also it can a lot of the time be like a 4-2-1-3. So like these guys are really high and wide. There's a few things. It's very much based around the Ajax traditional style of play. It's on positional play.
Total football.
Total football. So they press high, they play a high line. They don't really press high, they press in numbers, they swarm the opposition. So you'll often find if the ball is around, they try and play out from the back, a lot of teams. And Ajax win the ball a lot, genuinely around these sorts of areas. Like there's a couple of goals, if you watch back some of the goals from the last couple of months, where they've won the ball around here and have been able to get in to score just by closing down someone quickly, surrounding them from both sides.
Yeah.
This guy can't get rid of it in time and they steal it and score.
Cruyffian football.
Yeah, it's very similar to that. But it's all based around like positional play. So you make sure you always have, when we say positional play, we mean things like the lines that Guardiola's
teams. Draw the lines on the pitch? Because I always find that useful. So we've got the wide space, the half space, the centre space. But it breaks down into many more of those too, doesn't it?
It does.
And coaches like Guardiola will train within these specific areas of the pitch as well.
And it's ball position dependent. So this is like this in a big pitch, but when you move into a smaller section of the pitch, it's going to be a bit different.
And what's the one? You only ever have two players in a line vertically?
Generally, you have two in one line, you have three in another.
Yeah.
So you can have three horizontally or laterally, whichever the word is.
Sure.
But yeah, these are the shapes. 4-3-3 or a 4-2-1-3. You could also call it a 4-2-3-1. It's not really. Basically, the numbers don't matter whatsoever. What the whole thing is based around is players making lots of runs off the ball to help create lovely 1 and 2 touch passing moves. They want to get width often. So if you're playing against a team who's playing with a back four like this, let's give them this thing here. You'll often find they'll focus play on one side. Maybe they'll get 3 here and the centre back will push up. So you effectively get 4v2 or 4v3 on this side.
An overload.
An overload, correct. And then what you have is, so this is a midfielder, Ryan Gravenberch. He's been really important. He's a young Dutch player. He's very good. This is Dusan Tadic, who you'll remember from Southampton. He was all right, but now he's amazing. Yeah, he's got some good stats for Tadic. He in the Champions League, he has put the most crosses into the penalty area and provided the most crosses of any player in Champions League this season so far.
Wow,
that's good.
Yeah.
And also has the most key passes of any player in Champions League this season.
Wow.
Joint with Vinicius Jr.
Who was in Ajax's group?
Borussia Dortmund, Besiktas, and Sporting Lisbon.
Okay, sure.
I knew that off the top of my head.
You did well done. I was trying to catch you out.
I know you were. You told me you were going to do that earlier. So Aller's here. Anthony is a right inside forward, left-footed. He's Brazilian. He's really good as well. So what you'll find, if Tadic pulls out wide here, then you'll find that Anthony will come in amongst about it here, and then you'll get maybe Steven Berghuis will come in to form this sort of 4. So you often get 4 along one line. Then you might have the right back will push up. This is Mazraoui, comes up here. So what you find is that one of these drops a little bit deeper, maybe 2 lead level with the 2 centre backs, or they have a 3. And so to make sure you never have the 3 in a vertical space, if you've got 3 here, you're going to have the wide players. You can see they're in one line and these guys are in another line.
Yeah.
They'll look like that. If one of these guys drops kind of here, you might find that these guys, they often stay in this bit here, so they cross from deeper, it tends to be. It means you've got a bit of depth to be able to move with.
So what you're saying as well is that one of the important things about positional play is that players are aware of their teammates' positions because their movements can in some cases be dictated by other players' movements, right? So if someone drops back, someone pushes forwards, you try to maintain those lines and overloads where you can.
That's it. So Ten Hag has said often in various interviews and things that the key to all this working is having runs off the ball.
Yeah.
So if you have Sebastian Aller sitting just here being a striker, and Antony's out here positioned. So often the wingers in his teams will stay wide. Like they'll do this and stretch the opposition. And Ten Hag has said that he wants to create this width because it stresses out the opponent. So the idea of the stress is that this guy, we've got Berghuis here, Mazraoui here. If Antony is amongst here, he knows he can hold position and keep a compact back four like this. But if Antony pulls really wide, where he's not really involved in play, he now has to worry about what he's doing.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't. If he pulls out here, it leaves this space for Berghuis to come into, or it means that Mazraoui could underlap. But then if Antony moves in here, he might have to come in, but that would mean that Mazraoui is then going to be free here, so he doesn't know what to do.
Or incidentally, if he just leaves Antony wide and stays compact, Antony has all this space out here with which to pick a pass, and you've got a player like Aller in the middle who, we know can get on the end of crosses.
Exactly, and his link-up play is amazing. He scores a lot of headers as well. But these players like Gravenberch, so Edson Alvarez is he can play at centre back as well. A lot of these players, I mean, not Justin, but Timber. I can't remember his first name right this second. In fact, I'll tell you what it is because that would be useful to know. Urian Timber. Urian Timber. I don't know what's his first name. So he is a Dutch multi-positional defender. He can play at right back, but he's become a really composed ball-playing centre back. Plays alongside Sandro Martinez, who also is a good start for you with Martinez. He has played the 8th most progressive passes in the Champions League group stages this season. And weirdly, the most progressive passes in Champions League group stages was made by Daley Blind.
Right, yes. Is it ordinary for a centre-back to be amongst those numbers? Because, there's more space to progress. But when you say a progressive pass, you mean a pass that breaks the line, takes several opposition players out of the game.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
In fact, let's show that because that's good to see what we're talking about here.
So would we expect that a centre-back would normally be amongst those numbers given that there's more space ahead of them to make the passes?
Depends on the team. So you'll find players like Joao Cancelo at Man City will be good for this. Ball-playing centre-backs often are because they can do it. Like actually at Man United, what's his chops? Victor Lindelof would be very good at this sort of thing. So progressive pass, right? So a forward pass would be this sort of thing into Alvarez. So you move the ball from the centre back. So goalkeeper to Timber out to here, or he might play a forward ball into Mazraoui here. These are all just normal, simple forward passes. But what he's really good at doing is finding this ball into like Antony, because that's progressive. It's over 10 yards.
Yeah.
So it gets the team up the pitch quicker. So you often find with possession-based teams that they often build through the lines too slowly. So the team, if someone's trying to press them, like say they're trying to build up and they're getting pressed by the opposition, the slower you are, the easier it is to kind of mark it. Now, if you get the ball straight into here, this team are then caught behind the ball and have to retreat and get in.
Which is called a defensive transition.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Well done.
I know.
Where were we on how Ajax play? So in terms of the off-the-ball runs, that's the thing we should talk about. So what you'll often find is they make third-man runs off the ball. So one of these progressive passes, say Aller moves into this position here. So if Timber or Alvarez or Berghuis is able to get a ball into Aller like this, right, he makes a little run into here to be able to receive it.
Yeah.
He is not the focal point of this attacking move. It's going to be someone like Gravenberch getting in behind or Tadic getting in behind. Third-man run. So as soon as this ball goes in, Alvarez might push up, or Gravenberch might come in here instead. The ball goes back to him because the real recipient is going to be Tadic in behind or Antony in behind, something like this. And if that doesn't work, it doesn't matter because then the rest of the team pushes up and then there's rotations as well. So Antony's moved in here, which means Mazraoui's here. So the opposition is constantly guessing where they are. And then when they lose the ball, they immediately swarm it. So say the ball is managing to get back from Aller to Gravenberch to Tadic to Antony. Lots of 1 and 2 touch moves they play, lots of little triangles. And the ball's lost here. Well, straight away, Mazraoui will chase them around. Aller will drop in like this. You have Berghuis, Alvarez, Gravenberch. They'll all swarm them to win the ball back quickly, and then that way you've got possession again.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It's worth pointing out at this moment too that viewers might watch this and think, well, fine, in the Eredivisie, when you're the best team and you've got all the best players, it's fairly easy to press players who are of a lower quality, right? But your point is that Ajax have also been extremely impressive in the Champions League.
Yeah, well, that's
against higher quality teams.
Well, that's why I bring the stats up from the Champions League. Is that in the Eredivisie, fair enough, they're their best team now. They weren't when Ten Hag took over. It took him a couple of years to be able to win the Eredivisie. But then he had them straight away in the Champions League semi-final. They lost to Spurs with a Lucas Moura hat-trick in the 96th minute. This season they're looking really good. Hardly conceded any goals before the final bit. In fact, I can't remember what the number is in the league. It doesn't matter because it could come out whenever. But they don't concede many goals at all. But it's not because they're defensive. They're not like a Mourinho team that sits compact. They just swarm and override the person.
Attack as a form of defence.
Exactly. And it's why players that maybe aren't household names yet. I mean, Tadic, you don't think of him as being a superstar. Yet this Champions League, he's been one of the best players. Sebastian Aller was considered a failure in the Premier League.
Well, we've got Southampton failure, West Ham failure. These are all, obviously far too extreme terms. But some people might consider them having come to a mid-table Premier League team and then leaving without much fanfare.
Yeah, and you look at even players like, on that same note, Davy Klaassen, who was at Everton and was useless. Just couldn't get in the team even, couldn't do much with him. But they often play him as they change the team around sometimes in this 4-2-1-3. You play Alvarez and Gravenberch together, and Gravenberch's more, he drops deep to receive the ball, but he gets up and down the pitch an awful lot. Dutch international as well. We play it like this. Klaassen becomes this 1. Now I remember we play a 3, so it's not so much a 4-2-3-1, which would look more like that in a maybe build up or out of possession. You keep these guys wide.
Yeah. Which Pep Guardiola does at Manchester City a lot, doesn't he?
Plays with wingers, yeah. So most wingers nowadays, you think of them being as inverted wingers, and I mean, Tadic's left-footed, for example, and he plays in his left wing here, puts in lots of crosses. Anthony's left-footed, and will often get the ball around a bit here and cut back to play like a ball from this sort of position.
Yeah, but still from very wide area.
Yeah, so it's bent over, and you'll often find that one fullback will cross for another fullback to get on the end of. When they build, Mazraoui's more likely to push forward like this. You'll sometimes find, because they push up very aggressively, let's put this other team back. You'll find that Alvarez will sit here, Timber will push right up, and they're often squish the opposition team into here. And because they've got so many players forward, the opposition naturally has to drop even deeper to kind of deal with it. They get players forward, and Blind will then stay in a line maybe with Martinez and Timber. So they just push really aggressively. Blind can then come inside sometimes as a midfielder to help out like that, very much like Man United, like Man City. It's like Cancelo or Zinchenko or something like that coming inside the pitch. But they do it dependent on where the ball is and what the passage of play is like, what the right thing is, which is a sign of good coaching and clever players. Exactly. Yes, that was much better.
I like it. So Erik Ten Hag then, in terms of his future prospects, obviously, as we said at the beginning, making a big name for himself at Ajax. Do you anticipate that he will get a top job?
He will.
Is he of that caliber? I mean, we know that he's been, rumoured. Every time there's a vacancy at a big team, that's happened before, and those managers, some of them haven't quite made it to those heights. He's definitely someone who's going to get a big job? I think he's the perfect Guardiola replacement at Man City. Wow.
He apparently, depending on what you read and where you read, the hammering's back. Depending on where you read, he was recommended for the Barcelona job before Xavi took it from people like Guardiola. How much that's true, we don't know.
Sure.
But yes, he was managing at Bayern Munich too, the reserve team. This is where he came across a lot of Guardiola's work. It says he was heavily influenced by that.
Yeah.
He's made Ajax into one of the best teams in Europe with a tiny budget compared to what teams they're beating are.
Yeah.
And they beat Real Madrid in 2019, I think it was, to get into the semi-final. But they beat them legitimately. They were the better team by far. This season they absolutely destroyed Lisbon a couple of times. They destroyed Dortmund 4-0 and a 3-1. A 3-1 away from home as well. Although 2 goals were quite late on, you could say, but they still had control of the game, and it's hard to do, especially in Dortmund. And with these sorts of players, bear in mind that the first team he had people like Donny van de Beek and Matthijs de Ligt, and I forgot, Onana has not played for a long time in goal.
De Jong as well was there once.
Frankie De Jong, that's one. Yeah. So they had all these players that were there, they're now gone. He's replaced them with, it helps with the Ajax Academy being so good.
Sure.
Because these guys, Gravenberch coming through is perfect.
Yeah.
But the recruitment, it's Mark Overmars in charge of this. Bringing players through, like Timber's Dutch Dutch national player coming through. Martinez was a signing, Alvarez was a signing, Aller signed by Overmars as well.
Tadic too, of course.
Tadic, yeah. So all these players identified by Overmars to work in tandem with what the coach is using, and then Ten Hag's getting the absolute most out of them.
It's quite a fun team, isn't it? You hear about that a lot, not just Ten Hag as the coach, but Overmars as the director of football, Edwin van der Sar as the CEO. Seems like a cool crew.
A good bunch of lads.
Yeah.
Seems like, yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. So he could be any of those teams. He could also be Man United maybe. But the question people ask is whether he'd have the presence to take over a dressing room with people like
Sure.
Ronaldo or other big player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
Right.
But he's great, so everyone should hire him.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic brings you the best sports journalism in the world in a personalised experience, connecting you with the stories and teams that you care about the most. There's coverage of 13 sports, plus direct access to world-class journalists through live Q&As, discussions and podcasts. Not to mention, it's all ad-free. And you can try it now for free for 30 days by clicking the link in the description.